All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 14 here on the podcast, Growthentic Podcast. I'm Shane Chalupa here with co host Sam Lee. And in the first half of this episode, I'm going to cover and go through a key framework for integrating AI into your everyday life, both personally and professionally. And we really want to look at utilizing AI to plan, execute, and check the work that you're doing to make sure you're putting out the best possible products and accelerating and improving productivity within your team and across your entire life.
Awesome. And in the second portion of this episode, really carrying on the same theme from previous SEO technical sessions around semantic similarity. The specific use case here being if you don't want to pay for a Gemini API and want a free and easy way to identify pages that are semantically similar to a specific query or topic, we share a very easy Jupyter Notebook script to be able to identify all those pages. You can always reach out to us to get the actual kind of SOP document that walks you step by step. But it's a really cool session, really filled with actionable takeaways, just not only from my session but also from Shane's session. So we really hope you enjoy. Reach out to us, like, subscribe, drop in some comments. We'd love to make these sessions as valuable as possible to every one of you. So we appreciate it. Hope you enjoy. And welcome to another episode.
Welcome.
Hey there, Shane.
Hey, Sam. How's it going?
It's going well, man. How are you doing, brother?
Fantastic. Back in Pennsylvania, we were out on a little family vacation out to Montana and excited to be home. Got caught in the storms, a little bit of delays yesterday here in the Northeast. So it was a rodeo of a trip, but we're glad to be back in the office at home, and especially glad for us to be reconnecting here on the podcast. It's summer vacation holiday season, so a little bit bumpy here, but glad to be back in it. And yeah, we got an action packed session here today.
Absolutely. Was it a business trip?
This
Personal
one was
trip?
family. We had the whole
Nice.
family. We went out to visit my parents who live outside of Bozeman, Montana. And we were out there for about 5 days. Got to do some really fun outdoor stuff. Just a beautiful location out there. Great time of year. Weather was perfect for us. And we had smooth travels out and then just had a little bit of a snag coming back. But it was all good. Everybody did really well and we had a blast.
Nice, man. That's what it's all about. Glad that everything went well. You guys didn't get too hung up with all of the inclement weather. Man, what a summer it's been. We've kind of had some wonky scheduling, so we apologize for not the regular episode releases. But like Shane said, we've been gearing up for a really good one today. We've got a lot of things more on like the technical side of things, teaching some really great things to take away, really insightful nuggets, both on AI side of things, the SEO side of things. So really excited to dig into. Um, so Shane, without further ado, should we just hop right in, get right into this thing?
Yeah, I think we should. Oh man, the energy has just been outrageous. There's so much fun stuff going on. Being on vacation, I'm a few days behind on all the latest and greatest news, but I will say that pulling in and utilizing AI in my everyday life and also both, I guess, everyday life in both professional and the personal setting, it has just unlocked so much for us, whether it be financial coaching for Mary and myself, designing our budgets, like all of these things. I always tell people my big thing is like you have the world's best expert sitting across the table from you at any point in time. And if you just know how to start unlocking that and having the conversation, then you literally have an infinite team with knowledge that is at or above graduate level student knowledge base right now and kind of capacity. So I don't think we talked about this since our last episode, but Grok 4 came out and Elon was on there, and the paraphrase, the his statement is essentially that the Grok 4 is powerful as any graduate student in any subject around the entire world. So literally that just gives you some context on how much horsepower you have at your fingertips in a matter of seconds or minutes, you can have everything that you could ever imagine developed in whatever format you want and however you want to interact with it. It's just a matter of learning the skills to unlock that. And during my portions of the podcast now, I'm really trying to hone in on building up those foundational elements, exercising the initial skills, and helping people get over their fear, starting to see some of that value. If you haven't yet, you can go back to episode 12, where I have a really great introductory piece there about kind of just the framework and foundations, tools that you need, what kind of a little bit of explanation and building there. So, encourage people, if you're a little bit in lost in the sauce here, go ahead on back to episode 12. That's a great one. And even prior episodes, we have great segments in there about AI and how we're integrating into our lives and workflows. But today's subject I wanted to go into is for really anybody out there. This would apply both personally and professionally, but I'm going to kind of call out everybody in business. And ultimately, the way the landscape is right now, if you are involved in a business, no matter what level you are, whether it be individual contributor, middle management, upper management, leadership, ownership, all of that, at any level, right now, if you are not using AI constantly in the work that you are doing, you are being irresponsibly unproductive. There are teams with a fraction of the number of people, my team included, doing outsized amounts of work compared to historical team makeup and resourcing and requirements for any given task. At a high level, areas where AI is a great fit right now is just integrating it into your daily workflow. But generally, I look at it as you have the main core areas of the business: marketing, sales, and execution or delivery. And really, it can help in all of those areas, and you can make it into world's best chief marketing officer, world's best chief sales officer, and then help delineate and deliver whatever it is that those folks are doing. These are, you can essentially make assistants to do all those functions for you and accelerate what used to take X amount of hours and X number of people for copywriting, ideas, sales workflows, proposal development, um, and then going into execution. Whatever you're doing as your product or service that you deliver, integrating AI to help accelerate anything that you're doing. If it's more on the services side, research, actual data extraction and evaluation, trending, giving you insights, and then helping you develop your final solutions. What I'm seeing out there right now is there's a lot of people who are just aware of AI, but they're not integrating it into their team in a systematic fashion. I have some really great clients that I'm working with who are definitely tech forward, out in front of others in their competitive landscape. And what they're doing right now is not only integrating AI and using it in their daily workflows, but it really becomes, how do you create a system and structure to go from single one-off conversations and chats with whichever tool you're choosing, Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity. How do you go from single one-off conversations, which are helpful, to starting to get into longer multi-phase prompting, and then going even deeper into custom projects, custom GPTs, also leveraging other tools outside of the classics. There's Google's Studio right now that's coming in and really strong. And one awesome tip there that I've seen, I haven't trialed it yet, and maybe in your segment you'll comment it on it, because you can comment on it because I know you're a big Google guy. But in the Studio, they now have a follow along where you can actually screen share with the AI, and it will help walk you through whatever technical things you're trying to do, troubleshooting, programming, all of that fun stuff. But once we learn the basics and we're getting out of this just like kind of unorganized usage of the tool, which is great, you're going to get probably at least 1 to 2 hours per week back in your life, maybe even 1 to 2 hours per day if you're really using it heavily and you know what you're doing just in a chat conversational method. But we really start to see huge productivity gains when you start building out your custom projects, with a knowledge base and custom instructions, which is then tuning and developing assistants for whatever the role is. For me, in the engineering services and construction world, plus all their adjacents and feeders, we're really looking at, again, a chief marketing officer and copywriter. We're looking at a chief sales officer who has the knowledge base, the context of your best performing marketing materials, LinkedIn posts, Instagram, all of that in the background so that it becomes customized and sounds like your team, your voice, your brand. And it's helping you build that content, but it's not replacing you. It's just accelerating how fast you can get that content out and extract it out of your mind. On the sales side, proposal development, right now we're working through a really excellent proposal workflow mapping session with a client where we're developing from start to finish, cradle to grave. What does that workflow look like? Where can we use AI to integrate in and accelerate that workflow and also improve quality, improve win rate? There is so much published information out there, especially in construction and engineering, where there's a lot of rules of thumbs and there's sizing bases and all types of things that we can leverage to do a lot of work with one person in a very short amount of time. So I'm going to get into that here a little bit later as an example to help people understand what is possible in their business. So again, challenge I'm seeing right now is overcoming the fear to jump in. And then the next step is going from chatting with it and using it in an unorganized manner over to actually coming up with your AI systematic structure for how we produce elements in our workflows, how we integrate AI into those workflows, how do we store and then access outputs and do it in a very systematic fashion. And that's really important because otherwise you're creating a bunch of material, a bunch of data that can be very hard to sift through, reference, and go back to. I even find myself having trouble sometimes using Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT, Notebook LM, where all that information is. How do you recall it as fast as possible? And how do you organize it so that way you can preserve it in case, as we've seen, the LLMs, the chat interfaces with them, like ChatGPT, Claude, all of those can go down on the drop of a hat. There was a couple month and a half ago, I think Cloudflare was down, everything was down. Couldn't get in, couldn't do anything. So these things can happen, and you need to have a systematic way so that way you can keep your business moving forward while also incorporating provisions to kind of back up data information so you don't lose it and or don't have access to it in case something else goes down.
That's something that I never really thought about. I think, whether it's in today's session or a future session, I think myself included and the audience would love to see how you store locally that information for, those momentary times where, ChatGPT is down, because we've all seen that. We've all seen network connection issues. We've seen times where it's just not available. But you never know if there's something a little bit more, I wouldn't say permanent, but a little bit longer in its time frame as far as something being down, and that could be quite detrimental if you have a proposal that needs to go out in the next few hours. So I think I'm really curious to learn from you, and for you to share with the audience, whether today or in a future episode, on how to store your information, your data, locally for you to never really lose a beat in running your business in whichever area that you're focused on right now.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good one. And looking at it, I think there's two main structures. There's how you structure your usage within each of the whichever choice LLM you're going with, like how do you actually set up and organize that? And then there's the second part to that of when you get outputs, and even sometimes when you have inputs and reference information like knowledge based data, how do you pull that in and keep it up to date and also have access to it in case something does go down? And what could you do as a backup plan to keep things moving? That's a great topic and I think that warrants a whole nother session in that one. And I'll write that down as something to go through next time of like, how do we organize this? How do we create our projects? And then where do we store these files? So that way it's not tied to the uptime of ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or any of that for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I
Great
think also
question. Great
that
point.
Also, that just general like organization. Also, when I think about people just scratching the surface of leveraging these technologies, it can be so overwhelming in that once you get a little bit familiar, your natural desire is to do it for so many other use cases. And I think, at least the way that my mind works, if I can compartmentalize different parts of my business, different parts of how I use the technology in a very clean and organized way, that removes a lot of strain in using these platforms, right? You don't have to go digging for previous conversations. You don't have to try and remember where I stored this workflow into this LLM. So I think we can really benefit from learning more about that organization of information in choice LLMs in the future.
Yeah, that would be a great topic, and we'll get that on there queued up for next time for sure. It's something that also helps because the LLMs and whatever you're using is going to benefit from, yeah, really compartmentalizing, breaking things down by the function and really the outputs that each of these different, they're called projects in Claude and ChatGPT. But essentially, what function and output are these, what I would call assistants? What are they doing? And that's really critically important because these are foundational steps for a person or a business to outline, understand, so that way they can take that and leverage it for future, even uh, bigger efficiency gains through automation, and then AI enhanced automation, and then autonomous AI agentic workflows.
Yeah.
And out there, there are instances where you can go from zero to agentic workflow, no problem. An example of that right now is SDR type cold outreach activities, scheduling and booking. That exists today, right now, and people are already have that spooled up. They have templates for it. You can literally be cold outreaching or scheduling calls if you own some type of business that's very B2C, where you need to be booking lots of customers and they have questions, like them calling in and having an agent that answers the phone, you know, hypothetically, like they're answering, and then they're scheduling and booking people, right? And answering questions. Like that all exists today. That's something you should implement if you own a B2C business, you have a lot of clients, all of that. But for the other segments, the other 99% of your business, you really have to, one, build up the foundational knowledge around AI. Two, you have to go in and map out your workflows to understand them so that way you can start figuring out where to best integrate AI. And then the next step after that is, okay, where can we automate it? And then do we need to bring in AI enhanced automation where we're going to run some information and data through the LLM to get a better output and move it through the automation? And then again, then over time, if it warrants it, developing an agent to do certain things for you. That is fantastic. That's the way the world's going. But you really can't have great agentic workflow unless you understand your workflows. And you have to understand AI, you have to understand prompting, you have to understand knowledge base, custom instructions. All that is foundational elements. All of those are foundational elements to build up and get to agentic workflow.
Awesome, man. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm like teasing topics that we got to talk about in the future. I know you have some great things lined up for today. So, yeah, let's reel it back in and
Yeah,
get back to
we'll
what you
focus
got
in
planned.
here. So again, if you have a business, a team, whatever the case is, or an individual contributor, if you're not using AI for everything, and that includes planning the work, ideation, creation, then executing the work, doing the work, integrating it there. And then the third part is following up, running your own quality cross checks, peer checks, evaluations, feedback loops on the output that you have before you issue that. If you are not doing those, if you're not using AI in everything that you're doing in those three areas of actually like producing an output, you again, you're being irresponsibly unproductive. Like completely full stop, period. That is it. It is, in this day and age, your competitors are going to be utilizing it and they're going to be outpacing you. We're looking at, a few hours if you're good on just prompting and using the LLMs, 1 to 2 hours a day. Most people are seeing like on the average, like 3.5 hours per week productivity gains that I'm seeing out of real surveys that I'm doing, and also comparing that against published data for just utilizing the LLM, basic prompting, no projects, no custom GPTs, no nothing. Then when you step it up to custom GPTs, prompting, integrating into actual workflows, now we're talking like 8+ hours per week per person. These are all per person, individual basis. You're talking 8+ hours, in some cases up to 16, 24 hours per week efficiency gains. And then beyond that, when we start getting into automated AI assistant workflows or agentic workflows, you're now talking 4 to 5x, so 400 to 500% productivity gains by utilizing that. So you can now, and there's a lot of discussion out there about the first $1 billion company with one employee, and that day is coming. It's a little bit out there, but it's coming. And what I tell my clients when I'm doing my trainings and webinars is, right now you need to learn to use it, and then you're going to have to learn to manage AI agents, because those are coming, and those are going to act just like employees that you leverage, that do outputs. They can go off and do tasks and things on their own, bring them back to you with outputs, and you have to be able to leverage and manage that team. Like, that's the way the world is going. It's already pretty much here in some sectors, but that's the way it's going. And so, again, I can't stress it enough that we need to get to that point of understanding this, integrating it, and starting to get the realized benefits in your company. And again, start out with the simple pieces. If you're kind of apprehensive, you have some fears around it, all of my clients, it's non-negotiable baseline foundation training. If you got the training elsewhere, great. We can go above that. But out of the gate, foundational training, bare minimum, because everybody's got to speak the same language. Everybody's got to be on the same plane. Next up is, we need to start integrating that into the daily workflow, get them set up with a Teams or enterprise subscription, and then start rolling it out to people, and then start picking choice workflows of where we're going to really target, build it out, prove the ROI. And then from there, it kind of just becomes something that just spreads throughout the company for all of that. So that's how we're going about doing it. That's what I'm seeing out there in real time. And we've got a little bit of a John Henry moment. I did a LinkedIn post on this, but truly, I was in a meeting with someone and they brought that up. So shout out to them if they're watching. They'll know who they are. But they mentioned this like John Henry moment of like man versus machine, right? And I'm actually running in real time an experiment right now where I am doing a workflow that an EPC, so an engineering, procurement, and construction project. This company has an established workflow, an established team to handle all of this. They're going through and processing it. I'm coming in later to the game, and I'm going to do it as a single entity, one person working on it with just AI. And I'm also not going to be even working on it full time. And we're going to compare the outputs and help inform their proposal with it. But I'm doing it in parallel and building it. And so we'll see at the end how many hours it takes me and what the output looks like versus their team. So we'll have that conclusion here by the time the next episode drops, and I'll be able to give you the hardcore numbers. But I can tell you right now, I'm going to be probably cleaner on most everything. I'm going to have higher quality. I'm going to be more data driven. And I'm also going to have a better, compelling story and chance to win the work with my proposal. The areas where it's not good, so I'm hyping this up, but things where it's not good, not going to be great at reading existing drawings, looking out for things that it can't see in a general context or even in the confines of the data that we've given it for the RFP, the request for proposal. It can't see outside of that. So the things like underground obstructions and things that are on the drawings that are important, and that overall engineering and construction knowledge and history and data that the knowledge base that they bring to it, that's where I'm going to be a little bit struggling. However, the speed at which I can do it, and then if we were to layer on those experts to peer review and check it, now we've got a really fantastic workflow to get proposals that used to take 6 to 8 weeks out in a matter of 1 to 2 weeks. And so my time frame is to do something that used to take, let's say, 6-ish weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. I'm going to try and do this in about 1 week, and that's, well, let's call it 2 weeks, and I'm going to work on that only part-time. So probably going to be about 20 hours a week working on it. So We'll see, but that's just an example of how you can accelerate and reduce the resources, increase quality, increase win rate for your proposals in this workflow. And that's not even automated. I'm not automating it. I'm just human in the loop utilizing this, building some custom projects and GPTs to do it. But if we were to then automate this further, we would see even bigger returns. And then we can train it on historical data for this company based on winning proposals and all the cost and data information. And now we've got a really dialed in piece of IP for them to utilize that no one else is going to have. And they're going to be moonshot ahead of everybody else.
I think you said something in there very interesting to me where you're talking about the limitations of the automation and the AI workflows that you have. I want to talk more specifically about that. Is it an actual image that you upload into a ChatGPT or Claude where the large language model has difficulty in dissecting and analyzing the image? Is that where the limitation is? Or is it something a little bit more complex than just an image?
Well, so most of the time in engineering and construction and adjacent, you're going to have either PDF scans or pure PDF outputs from the software. And then you also might have some photos or pictures of those documents as well. Right now, the LLMs can interpret those and give you information. However, a lot of times they're not structured enough to really be able to utilize and extract all the information without flaws. We've been experimenting with this and it's doable. It just costs right now too much to develop a custom machine learning variation, leveraging an LLM, but really a customized version specific to whatever documents we've got. There's just too many nuances of how people draw and depict things, and that basically the input data is not very structured. And that's one of the drawbacks. When you don't have really good structured inputs, it's going to struggle. And so it can definitely work and get some of the basic information. However, it can't go in, analyze the entire design, and then give us all the outputs without flaws right now. It's
Gotcha.
partial, but it's also a big lift to get you to where you need it to be. As opposed to like images and comparisons like x-rays and things like that, it's very good at doing that because it's a very structured format in which medical and veterinarian, all of that is kind of structured, and you're looking at one piece and the anatomy is generally similar across people. So bones and skeletal structure, like that's pretty systemized, standardized data that has lots of knowledge on. um, but when you start getting custom drawings, it can pick up on some of the context, but it can't dial it into like an engineering level accuracy right now for data extraction without costing a lot of money and time.
Right. But like you said, once that initial, like during that RFP phase, as you're extracting and unpacking that information and feeding and teaching that custom GPT or a project, in theory, in the future, it might get a little bit better with extrapolating data from those types of assets, whether it's PDFs or images, because it has that foundational information that you've built up from the beginning of beginning of the RFP process.
Yep. Yep. The more you get over time, if you were to specifically look at just the drawings, again, that would be where the machine learning would come in. We would develop the custom model. We would then
Hmm.
put in as much data as we could. You can also create synthetic data for it to train on, give it boundary conditions, and we would get there and it would get better and better. But that's a huge investment right now for maybe not as much lift, where there's a lot more lower hanging fruit. But there are companies out there doing that for sure, and I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm just saying, like, right now at the speed and everybody coming up, there's just so much other lower hanging fruit to go after. That and then you also gain the confidence and you learn more about how to leverage the AI. And then once you have that, then you can start kind of building these more upper echelon projects. But touching on something you said is like, yeah, PDF format, all of that, structured data, a lot of words and um, written information, numbers, values, all that's perfect. And then if you have a repository of all of those from the historical purposes, then we can start training the model on that and leveraging that when you're developing your new proposal. that's where it becomes really, really, really powerful. And we've got solutions for that that can be implemented in a matter of weeks that are relatively standardized. And it will just take the entire RFP and proposal generation process and streamline it. And again, better outputs. You're leveraging historical data, all of your historical data, not just the examples that the engineering manager can remember because that's what's at the top of their mind, or the ones they most recently did. Like it can look back through all of it. So that's where you want to end up. And but you gotta, for me, I always look at it as you have to crawl, walk, run, sprint. And so the crawling into the walking phase, like get educated, start using it day to day, see the benefits just of leveraging it in a prompting on the fly manner, hone your prompting skills to get it outputs that you want, train the model, train the interface like ChatGPT or Claude on your background and information and preferences, and then start building out some custom projects. And then we can start looking at automations and more of the sprint level type stuff, from the sense of you're really advancing up the ladder of AI adoption and integration.
That's so awesome, man. And I think the fact that you've kind of done a lot of work already, you have a lot of value that a lot of people can benefit from, right? Just, a lot of these specific limitations when it comes to engineering projects, whether it's RFPs or actual tactical deliverables. Um, and I think you run a masterclass. I forget what the cadence is. Do you want to give a quick shout if
Yeah,
anyone
definitely.
in the space is
Anybody.
interested?
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate that. So we're running it. It's going to be bi-weekly. We're kind of getting into that sequencing now. So we'll have another one coming up in the middle of August. Then we'll run another one the end of August. We may switch it up and go to weekly. We'll see. But right now, we're going to go bi-weekly, make it really powerful content that people will walk away with at least 3 to 4 great nuggets. And it's open for anybody. It's going to be a little bit custom tailored more towards the technical audience. Again, engineering, construction, and related feeders and adjacents. But anybody's welcome to attend. The principles and knowledge still apply no matter what. And so that's one way. And we've got a few other things coming up in the form of a newsletter and then a community that we're going to be spooling up, as well as cohort training kicking off September 30th. Again, targeting that technical audience and businesses in that space, but again, open to anybody. And if anybody is interested in that, listening to this out there, feel free to get a hold of me on Instagram at Shane, Shane, Chalupa, Chalupa, or you can also email me at shane.chalupa@obnovit.com. And you can find us through the various hyperlinks on our Growthentic podcast profile and all that fun stuff out there on all the different platforms. But yeah, feel free to link up and reach out. Be happy to have anybody attend that and just, yeah, sharing some knowledge here. And I'll kind of wrap it up, this whole thing, into one like simple framework container. And this framework, again, is about what we're using AI to do and how to leverage it. So one is plan it, planning the work. So help use AI to help you plan how you're going to execute this work, come up with the idea, make sure it's refined, how you're going to execute a project or a proposal, whatever it is. Then help you, or utilize AI to help you execute the work. Actually do the lifting, generate some of the deliverables, the outputs, run the calculations, give you information, feedback, checklists, all of that. Then the last part is take your outputs and have it run through some of the other LLMs to cross check and peer check and do all of that and make sure that you have a really refined output. Like on a proposal, you can have it go against market industry data and say, like, is my pricing reasonable? Is my hourly rate reasonable? Or is this underbid, overbid? Where is my scope aligned with the RFP scope? All these things it can analyze and evaluate and give you feedback. And I do that across Claude, Perplexity, and ChatGPT when I'm looking at something, and I get all those things. And when I start to see a trend of these are the main highlights coming out, then that's, I know, okay, this is definitely the things that I need to look at. These are our strong points. These are where we're weak. This is what we need to address, and then address that, and then make my final product. So it's something where you got to use it to plan the work, execute the work, and then quality check and control and deliver the work. And we need to be doing that all the time. some of the, I mean, everybody out there is going to have some of these limiting beliefs around AI and like, oh, is it going to create worse engineers or worse technical folks in the workforce? I don't believe so. I think it's going to augment and help younger engineers gain access to knowledge faster so they come up to speed and upskill. And they just have to know how to leverage and utilize it in the right way. And then it can become the new go to source for them to start and alleviate bottlenecks on management and leadership teams, so they're not spent and answering questions every single day to different employees, the same thing over and over again. Also, is it going to replace us? No, no. But companies that are utilizing it and know how to manage it and use AI properly are definitely going to replace the ones who don't. You can't just stick your head in the sand and be like, nope, I'm not interested. I don't want to know anything about it. I guarantee you in the next 5 years, the landscape will look dramatically different. And if you're not on it, you're going to be way behind. And then other things are like, oh, it's too complex for AI. Well, no, it's not, because AI probably is better at whatever it is you're trying to do than you actually are. What you have that AI doesn't is all of the context, experience, background, and lessons learned. And that's something where you can leverage AI to extract that, pull that in to make it even better and more powerful. But right now, that's the thing that we have and bring to the table is the experience, the knowledge base, all the past lessons learned, those types of things, as well as being able to predict things into the future, and head off and see things with creativity across different silos and industries and pool ideas. And really, creativity is another big piece of that, where it can't really look outside of the silo that you're putting it in with the information. It can do a little bit of that, but it's not going to have the creativity that the human has. And the last one is, oh, it's too time consuming to learn and implement. And to that, I say, what is the cost to your business to fall behind in this? And at the rate of adoption, implementation, and then the productivity gains that other companies are going to realize, what's the cost of losing market share? What's the cost of being less competitive and more expensive on everything that you're doing and running with lower margins and a smaller bottom line? Like, what is that cost? Because a lot of this stuff, it's not a lot of time and it's not that costly to implement. It's actually pretty cost effective because the technology is not that expensive and then the training is not that expensive. So think about those things. And I would say some of the homework to go out there is, one, go back to our episode 12, get your foundations dialed. Two, start using this all the time and make it mandatory for every employee in your company. And they should even be rated on their employee reviews on how often and how well they're using AI. And if they're not meeting a threshold, time to go, because this is the way of the future. If you want to modernize, transform, and stay up with the leading cutting edge within your industry, this is what's got to happen. And you're going to just get better outcomes. So I would encourage everybody to start doing that, build the muscle up. Again, reach out to me at Shane Chalupa on Instagram, on LinkedIn, Shane Chalupa, and via email, shane.chalupa at obnovit, obnovit.com. Happy to help consult and map out your roadmap, your journey, and get you dialed in for some training, and we'll go from there.
That's awesome, man. And look, it does take time, right, to develop professional skills. It doesn't happen overnight. But look, I think everybody should have a fair bit of FOMO right now. Without doing this, you're really going to be left behind. And that sense of FOMO should really motivate you to either reach out to speed up the process to learning all of these technologies and the process that people like Shane have created already, or just give you that extra bit of push to spend a Friday evening or Saturday or weekend to learn more about this and take it in stride. Because, Shane's living proof, I'm living proof of the efficiency gains around this. And we're seeing it out in the wild, with our clients directly as well. It's for real.
Boots on the ground. This is real. The people that are utilizing it and implementing it are getting a huge advantage right now.
Yeah. And look, as we shift gears over to SEO, to kind of transition over, what I'm going to present today, I probably would not have been able to present this a year or two ago because I didn't have a chat GPT to help me educate myself on how to write Python scripts, what a Jupyter notebook was, what Olama is, like all of these things. I've had to spend time to teach myself to a certain degree and vibe code my way through creating a Python notebook to get to a desired outcome. But look, I'm not kidding. I am living proof. I'm learning as it is, as I'm going as well, and I'm leveraging all the technologies available to me to kind of speed up that process of developing new skills that make me more relevant as an SEO consultant, as a better leader, and as someone that is more well equipped to service his clients. So the past few episodes, I walked the audience through setting up a Google Cloud account. I've walked through then leveraging a Gemini API and integrating that within a tool called Screaming Frog to identify content on your website that may be duplicative of one another, that might be irrelevant to your industry. So if you are curious about the step-by-step process, either reach out. I have SOPs around that, or just head back to episodes, I think 12 and 13 that walk you through with the screen share of the site actually that I chose was runna.com, just because I am in my running phase right now. I thought it was kind of relevant and cool to just learn about what their website contained. So feel free to head back to get up to speed. Two things that I wanted to do today to kind of continue the workflow from past few episodes. One is a quick tip within Screaming Frog after integrating with Gemini API, running a crawl, having that all set up. One quick tip here is that if, let's say, you are part of the digital marketing team at Runna or any firm out there, and you're creating another piece of article on your website, a very important tactic, an SEO tactic, is to link to that new page from other pages on your website. Now, you don't want to link to it from irrelevant content. You want to link from it and to it from relevant pieces of content. So to make that a little bit more tangible, let me share a quick example with you all here. Give me 1 second. So I've got the same crawl that we were working with the past few episodes. We've got runna.com. We have everything integrated. So the quick tip here is go to the semantic search section. And let's say we just wrote a piece about injury prevention. It's a great topic, very relevant to all runners out there. So type in a query that describes your article. We'll go with injury prevention, hit enter. And then it'll go through this pretty sophisticated process of identifying very like-minded pages around this topic of injury prevention. So it quickly gives you a list of 10. Now you can go to the settings and increase the number of results accordingly. But you get this amazing list of relevant topics, relevant pages that you can link to your new article. It's a very important SEO tactic to do that, to show authority and relevance to this page. And search crawlers tend to look at that type of interlinking that's happening within your website. So just wanted to drop that quick tip in. I don't think I might have grazed over it during the past few episodes, but I thought that was really interesting and was a real use case. One of my clients had a specific topic that they wanted to better interlink to throughout their website. They were actually partnering up with another business, and they wanted to find some pages on their website that they wanted to link to around a specific topic. So that's a quick tip for today. The workflow that I wanted to go through, I was sitting back and thinking, the integration that we currently have hooked up into Screaming Frog, that costs money, right? You have your Google Cloud account, you have your Gemini API, and for all of the crawls that you run using that API, you incur a cost. And so I was thinking, how can I create a tool and a workflow that's completely free? So that's what I wanted to walk people through. Maybe it's a helpful use case, maybe it's not, maybe I was just thinking about random things, but I thought it was pretty cool. It got me at least to flex, my muscles a little bit in terms of learning more about creating Python scripts. So that's the use case for today. Let's go ahead and jump right in. I'll get rid of this screen here. And again, I've got a clear checklist, guideline, standard operating procedure document. So feel free to just watch, follow along. But if you do want to get the actual step-by-step walkthrough of things, just hit me up through Authentic, through LinkedIn, any of my channels, and I'd be more than happy to share, but also walk you through it for your specific website. So
Yeah, and that's Sam Lee, Key Rise Consulting, and right now we're seeing the Screaming Frog screen still. Are we moving out of that environment, or are we going?
we are. Good catch.
All right.
Good call.
And when you're talking free here, this would be something that maybe for me, a novice kind of in this area of SEO, I understand that it's an important thing, but I know there's experts like you out there to do it for me. Is this something that you would say is a free demo here and a workflow that other SEOs would utilize, or more for the novices out there?
Sorry, can you repeat that again about the free option that I'm working through?
Yeah, so the example we're going through today is the intended audience more novice people who might want to just check something themselves, or is this more for SEOs who might want to work around a little bit lower cost option for the time being as they get set up and established, or both?
I wouldn't say this is a skill for a novice SEO, but I'm glad you asked this question because the way that I see the SEO industry going right now, there is a massive need for all SEOs to upskill
Mm,
and upskill specifically for Python, for being able to not completely understand every single code that you need to get the desired outcome, but even being able to interact with a ChatGPT to create that Python script to get a desired output.
mm,
The reason why I think it's such an important skill for people to learn, the ways of, let's take this specific use case, right? We were trying to find like-minded pages. Yes, you can use a screaming frog that'll incur a little bit of a cost if you use an API. You can absolutely get that without Python, without scripting. But if people aren't using that and are using very manual workflows to finding internal link opportunities, and speaking to my SEO people out there, I'm sure you guys are using the site colon operator in Google search to identify like-minded pages. That's a very manual process. Imagine having to do that for 500 topics.
mm,
That's going to take an entire month of your time. This type of workflow allows you to do that so quickly and with a lot more accuracy because you're really controlling how you're defining how a page is like-minded to a topic. You're really defining that. You're leveraging scripts to do that work for you. So I think it's a super powerful tool. And as the community is getting a lot faster and there's new tactics to adopt with AI search becoming, kind of the go-to way of people getting answers and transacting, it only makes sense for the practitioners to find more efficient ways of delivering their deliverables and performing their tactics in a more efficient manner. All right. So what you're looking at here is Terminal. So this is for the SEOs that are on a Mac. I apologize for the PC users out there, but I could quickly spool up an SOP for PC specific users. So here's Terminal. The first step that we need to do, we need to install Olama, which is a large language model similar to an OpenAI. But the benefit here is that it's truly free. We don't have to pay for an API. to leverage the Olama large language model. Now, if you need to download it, if you haven't downloaded it already, you would just go to olama.com and download the package. Once you download it, you open up your terminal and you drop in a code as such, run it, and this will basically download the embedding model. We'll get to what an embedding model is, but while we're on the topic, embedding means basically a mathematical representation of words on a web page. So once you do that, the next thing that you'll have to do is open up a Google Sheets or an Excel file. And let me revise. My screen share has been super weird. Okay. So you'll open up a Google Sheets or an Excel spreadsheet. It'll be a one column document. The header will be URL. And then you'll provide all of the web pages on your website. Pretty straightforward here. What you'll do then is download this as a CSV. What you'll want to do is rename it. And this there's a reason why we're naming it this way. And give me 1 second. Screen share is just showing a window here. Let me see if there's a way I can share my entire screen. There we go. All right. So what you'll want to do is rename that file urls.csv. All right. Next thing that we'll do, we'll go back to our terminal. And we're going to open up our Jupyter notebook. This is our playground to Python. So we'll drop in that code, hit enter. It'll take a few seconds, and then it'll open up a Jupyter notebook for you. Really important here, what we just created, that URL .csv file, we'll want to bring it to the same folder or location where we're going to create a notebook to create our Python script. So I already have a folder called Runna. What I'll do is go back to the download section where I had my urls.csv file, and I'll bring that over to the folder where we're going to create our notebook. All right. Next thing that we'll do is actually create the notebook. So hit new, click Python 3. And here's our little playground now. This is where we drop all of our code, our scripts to do exactly what we needed to do to get the desired outcome that we want. First thing that we're going to do is load all of the URLs. So here's the script. To kind of activate the script on a Mac keyboard, you hold Shift and press Enter. And what that'll do, what that basically means is that we've now uploaded all of those URLs that were in that urls.csv file. Next, we're going to import a few libraries. I'll explain what all of these mean. There's a few things that we just want to drop in. Then we're going to define how we want to extract all of the text in all of these URLs. And then we're going to apply this entire process. And so you'll start seeing this timer. It's going through those 383 URLs that we had in that CSV file. So I'm going to step back a little bit. I'll describe, as this loads to 100, I'll describe what all these scripts mean. The first script, like I mentioned, we basically loaded the CSV file into our Python, and it gave us a preview of the URLs in that document, just to confirm that it pulled from the correct file. Next, this script is saying that hey, we need to load the tools to grab all of the web pages in our document. We want it to clean up the HTML, and also wants to control the speed in which our script operates. Because if you want, if you're, I think if you're, from what I know, if your script works too quickly, it might trigger a red flag and it might break your script. So it gives you that flexibility to kind of throttle the speed in which your script works. The next snippet here, basically saying, hey, we need to fetch all the web pages in our file, strip out all the clutter that's not really relevant. So the main navigation, the footer, kind of like call to action buttons that might exist, and really just focus on the main topic of each page. And so you'll see a number here, 5,000. What that indicates is I'm telling the script to focus on the first 5,000 characters in the main body section of a web page, which is typically where the main kind of topic and summary of a page exists. You can, of course, throttle this up and down depending on the content that you're working with, depending on the website, but it gives you that flexibility as well. So we're giving this a little bit more time here. It gives a timer. We got less than about 30 seconds until this all runs. And then I think we're about halfway through this. But the next few steps is where it starts getting really, really cool, where we're really identifying similarities between a topic across all of the URLs that we had in our file. So the next step after we hit 100%, we're going to start leveraging that Ollama large language model. Again, that's free as opposed to an OpenAI where you would incur a bit of a cost. And for a website that has, a million pages, and you do that time and time again, you might incur, pretty significant cost over time. Cool. So we're at 100% now. The next thing that we want to do is drop in an embedding function script. Again, I'll review once we get to the next pause point. I'll explain what all these scripts mean, but we're going to drop that in to define what our embedding function is. Then we're going to generate our embeddings by dropping that. And that's also going to have, a little timer there. So the first snippet here, what that's describing, that script is telling Ollama to go into every one of those URLs in our file and convert all of the text that you find in the first 5,000 characters, convert the text into an embedding. An embedding, like I said before, is a mathematical fingerprint. It's a representation in a mathematical form of individual words on a page. That's the way that that's the way that this large language model is going to ultimately connect the dots between the content of each of these pages and the topic that we want to find relevance between. So we've got a little less than a minute for that to run. The next step is then to spool up a couple of scripts here to identify the topic that we're talking about. In this case, we took the topic of injury prevention and connect embeddings between the URLs in our file and the embeddings of the word injury prevention or the phrase injury prevention, and assign similarity scores between the topic and all of our URLs. And then the desired output from there is, hey, we now can really prioritize which of the 380 or so URLs are the most relevant to the topic of injury prevention. And that gives us a great list to then go to our clients to prescribe recommendations on, hey, these are the top 5, these are the top 10, 20 pages that we should be linking to our new article, and vice versa. We should be linking to those top 5, 10, 20 pages from our newly created piece of content as well. So a lot of great, kind of a powerhouse way and a really, really accurate way of identifying like-minded content entities throughout one website.
Amazing. And while that's finishing up, now for somebody who's not in the SEO space, this is really, you want to have these high ranking links to past pages and articles, because then that helps boost your SEO visibility on Google and other places. Is that the the name of the game here?
Yeah, that's one of the tactics within the world of SEO. All pages have some level of authority that is built um, and has a certain level of relevance in the industry that you're in. And the better that you can leverage all of that authority across the various kind of page types that you have, the more equitable you are to the rest of your website. So, any way that you can pass along that built up equity from your home page down to a new page that you created, from a service page that you have back to a blog article that you created, or vice versa. That is you maximizing the authority of your website to pages that, new pages take a lot of time to build up authority, right? It's a new page. The search algorithms need to better understand its relevance, its credibility. And links are a great way that we can controllably kind of force feed some relevance signals and some authority signals, kind of like on, right off the bat. All right, so we're at 100% now. Let's go into now embedding our query. Similar to the way that we embedded all of the text in the URLs in our document, we're going to do the same now for the topic in question, which is injury prevention. Then we're going to compute semantic similarity, which I hope the audience has some growing knowledge of what that means. Um, and so at this, and then we're then going to, if we want, we can show like the top 50. Oop, seems like there was a mistake there, which always seems to happen. Let's see what's going on. Let's not sort it. Let's keep it with just semantic similarity. That should, in theory, be the last script that you need to get to where you want. So just to describe what we just did, this script, we're generating an embedding for the specified query, which was injury prevention. And then the last script here, we are importing cosine similarity. It's a mathematical way of connecting relationships between words. Basically, in this case, we're comparing how similar the embeddings of this topic is to the topics of each individual page. So I hope I did all this right. It's always a little scary doing this live, but once that is done, you can head back. Give me 1 second here. Oh, you know what? There she was. There was a typo in that last script. I think we actually need that script to finalize everything. There we go. So that last bit is just kind of executing the final step and showing the top 50 matches from your initial data set to which of the 380 so URLs are most semantically similar to that injury prevention query. You'll see a similarity score. The higher it is, the closer it is to the whole number of 1, the closer it is in similarity to that topic. And I know it's kind of hard to tell in this view. You should be able to, I did drop in my SOP. If you want to export this into a CSV, you can use this script, execute that, and back in your Jupyter notebook, you will have a new CSV created for the top 50 related pages. So you can either open that. I'd much rather just download it so we can see a clean kind of spreadsheet here. I am just a huge Google Sheets guy now. I can't even look at a normal Excel. But here we go. Let's sort this just in case it's not sorted highest to lowest. And so this is the desired output that we want. We've got top 50. Now we could stretch this out to top 100, but we do want to be cognizant of the similarity score. We don't want to go too down, or else the similarity and the relevance starts to fade away. But you could just, from the eyeball test here, let's look at some of the top articles that we have. We have top tips for preventing injury, how to manage niggles, muscle soreness, minor aches, dealing with calf pain. I mean, we could go down a little bit more, how to improve your running form. Maybe someone wants to do that because they're getting frequently injured. So just from the eye test here, of course, this is where you now need to put your SEO strategist hat on and think critically and review the output. But this is such a powerful way of identifying interlinking opportunities for a given topic or topics, and gives you a seed list to just quickly review and then prescribe really actionable takeaways for your client from an interlinking perspective. So that pretty much wraps it up. Again, if you guys want the step-by-step process of all the scripts that we just entered into our Jupyter notebook, if you have any questions around this, maybe this is useful just from a cost savings perspective. Maybe it's not. For what it's worth, I got to learn a little bit more about using Python through this exercise, and hopefully someone found this useful. But I know for a fact that this tactic, the output that we got from this, is absolutely important from an SEO perspective. Hopefully you guys can take some of this away and implement it for any in-house team that you work for clients that you guys may have.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. It's really neat to watch that go down and the work through doing all of that. And I think it's important here to reiterate to the audience that Sam and myself included are not programmers, but we are now able to do things that we couldn't do before because really, if you look at it, you can utilize ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, any of those as your coding assistant and help you run through it. And it's interesting because while you were diving into this type of coding, I've been dabbling in and introducing myself to Claude Code, which is I'm on a Windows machine. You can use it on Windows or Mac, but I'm on a Windows machine. And so I'm running it through the command line. And so in similar ways, it's like actually learning the foundations of what computer programming is, how websites are built, all these applications, how they're built with code is now accessible to anybody and everybody. And I think one thing that spawned off an idea of this whole thing with you, Sam, is like using Claude Code or something like a Cursor, you could actually develop a working application that does exactly what you just described and then host that somewhere and post it, and people could then leverage it in more of like a web-based interface tool. And that can be done like in a matter of just less than a few hours, probably, since this is a really narrow specific use case. But you could now develop custom software in-house for literally anything that you want to do. And Claude Code, the power there is it can build both the back end and the front end UI and make it workable. And so you just have to, there's a few steps in there, but yeah, it's becoming really powerful for generating custom in-house tools that the software market may or may not have, that you may or may not like, that the cost may or may not be commensurate with what you want to pay. And so that all is accessible to just about anybody who's a little bit technically oriented. And screenshots and follow alongs with Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT can help you literally do all of that and train you up and work through it, just like you had a programmer there with you.
Dude, that's so cool. And I'm like, two worlds colliding here, right? Like I've done like literally what you just described in your session. Learn how to do what you want to automate. And I think the next step is, how do I automate this? I've been thinking about that a lot, where I now that I do that, now that I can do this, I'm kind of thinking about, how do I trim even more time in getting to the output that we just got to. So I think maybe I'll learn through future sessions from your end and apply that to how I can automate this kind of specific workflow. I'll certainly be educating myself to see if there's a web app that I can create for some of these kind of internal workflows that I always do every single day. because I would love to save some time at the click of a button where I'm dropping a search query in and it spits out all of the, semantically related pages. That would shave off so much more time. And I'm, just grazing the surface on this and learning about Python, but I think there's a whole kind of sea of information out there that can unlock so much more automation, in kind of the operations of my business, the deliverables that I send. So I'm really excited to continue on this kind of continuous learning journey with you, and spread some good, valuable nuggets to our audience, throughout it.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. As you're getting into that, um, reading up on Claude Code, and there's a few little pieces that you would leverage that are free, and those are in the form of GitHub account, Vercel for hosting, and then I'm downloading. If you already are paying for Claude, you can get Claude Code through that, and then there's another kind of wrapper that you can use to interface with Claude Code on the Mac. That's useful. I got to remember the name of it. But yeah, there's like only three tools you need, and then you could take everything that you just did, make a web app, and you could just then drag and drop your CSV file or even just a list of websites and URLs that you had there. Drag that in, click go, it executes, and then gives you out. You could even get really fancy with it, whatever output type you wanted. If it's a list with the score or some type of like heat map, whatever you wanted, it can do that. So that could be something fun for us to do in the coming weeks for sure, coming
Yeah,
episodes.
I'd be down. Sounds awesome.
Yeah. Well, thanks for running through that with us. And I think, yeah, the episode here, it's fun because we cover two completely different topics and segments and industries and all of that. But it really helps just like reinforce fundamentals, learning, mapping your workflow. What are you actually doing? And then using AI to execute all that. And Sam really showed us step by step how he thinks about this problem or challenge that he needs to solve and output he needs to produce, maps that out. Then we utilize AI to plan the work. We use AI to execute the work. It can write all of that code in the scripts for you. And then the last part is for checking and error proofing and all of that. If you get into a point where there was an error, snap a screenshot, upload it into whatever you're using, like ChatGPT, Claude, throw that screenshot in, tell it, hey, I got an error. It will give you, hey, fix this, try this, do that. And you will work through and get an output. And the time horizon that we're thinking, and Sam, you could attest to this on what you did here, but in general, you're talking the order of maybe single digit hours. So, like maybe a half an hour up to 9 hours for something along these lines. And that's the first time. And then after that, it's going to continue to pay back for you because you could run this in a matter of minutes as opposed to however long that process would take across many large quantity of URLs or whatever it is you're working on large data sets in my world.
100%. In fact, I actually did time myself because I was curious. Someone with zero coding knowledge, how long would it take just with the assistance of ChatGPT? It was around 5 to 6 hours.
Wow.
It sounds like a lot, and it probably is a lot, but now I could probably spool up something similar to this in a matter of an hour, just because I know, I've educated myself on what these scripts mean, so I can kind of spot errors and debug
Hmm.
as I go. I'm getting a lot smarter with how I'm prompting. The troubleshooting, I think that took the longest. That took the most time within that 5 to 6 hour range. Constantly feeding back screenshots. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, it was aggravating at times. You would constantly troubleshoot. And at times I would scrap it and start again. But I think that's just the kind of the price you pay to learn new things. You're not always going to get it right the first time, and you're going to learn through your failures. So, but you're
Oh, yeah.
absolutely right. 6 hours in, and now, in a matter of 10 minutes, I can send over a really awesome deliverable that I have a lot of confidence in. And in fact, now I'm being very proactive in reaching out to a few of my clients and saying, hey, I have this tool. So just keep that in mind if conversations around internal linking or new
Hmm.
page development comes into play. Like, I can be a very helpful supporting cast member in those discussions.
Amazing. Yeah, that just you're generating value so fast. And I think even if people were like, oh, shocked at 6 hours, but we're talking somebody who has no coding experience to be able to do all of what you just did. And when people watch that, I'm sure, like for me, I'm like, wow, that seems pretty technical, pretty involved. You got your scripts, you put them in a very sequential manner, all of that stuff. So like to learn the process and do all of that, and now that's something that's going to pay back. That 6 hours of time invested is going to generate huge, over its lifetime. That could be 10, 100x on those 6 hours easily. And so that's just the framework to start thinking about for people. And then once you do it once, when you have a similar workflow that you want to execute utilizing some custom tools, then the time to build that is going to come down and you're going to find even faster ways. And I just looked it up while we're doing it. It's called Conductor is the last tool for the Mac people out there that gives you a little bit nicer interface with Claude Code. But yeah, Claude Code through Claude Paid subscription, Vercel for hosting it, and then Conductor to kind of go in instead of using the command prompt and terminal. It's Conductor is just like a wrapper that makes it look a lot more user friendly.
Nice. Cool,
Nice.
man.
I think this was a fun-filled, action-packed, educational episode, and look forward to future ones to come. Lots of great things coming out here.
Yeah, thank you all. Please, if you haven't already, drop us a comment, follow us, subscribe. We take a lot of pleasure out of this, just recreationally, but also taking time back or taking a step back and just kind of reviewing, our life and our business. So we get a thrill out of it. So hopefully you guys too, at least come away with it with some actual nuggets, but we'd love to hear from you guys in some capacity too. But thank you all.
Yep. Thanks all. Till next episode.
See ya.